And now I'd like to open the meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jeremy.
I am very grateful tonight for all the wonderful lessons and discussions that this church offers. So much of Christian Science confounded me for a long time, and bit by bit that confusion is being replaced by understanding. On Sunday I read fruitage, and every other time I have been so nervous that I've just about passed out. This time I prayed a lot and was reminded of a church member telling me that these readings are to send God's love out to the world. So this time, I really tried to feel that love pass through me with each word, and the experience was so much different. Had I not been willing to demand the blessing from that reading, I would have continued to avoid signing up. When I first came to Plainfield, the phrase "demand the blessing" was mentioned during a round table, and I thought it was the dumbest thing I ever heard. How can we demand such a thing? Yet as I learned more, it became clear that when difficult situations come up, I need to be sure I don't run from them. Only by getting through it, as tough as it seems in the moment, will I be able to learn the lesson and get the blessing. Now I can clearly see that demanding the blessing isn't me saying, "Give me what I deserve, God." It's about saying, I must give God what he desires of me. It's a wonderful difference that helps me to understand why we must go through difficulties. Equally wonderful is that if we must face these trials, at least we have all the support this church has to offer. I'm so grateful for Christian Science and every blessing the lessons, services, discussions, forum, and practitioner support have given me. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin.
I'm so happy to be here tonight, and also so grateful for the two readings tonight. It just was a reminder to me. A while ago, first of all, growing up, even since I was a kid until this day, I always sleep with my Bible within arm reach, and it's been a behavior that I have, and I grew up with that. One night I was sick with fever and threatened to the point, it was in the middle of the night, to the point that I couldn't even get up from the bed. I couldn't even turn on the light switch. It was completely over me, and I was so threatened, sweating all over myself. And thank God that I have my Bible next to me. And the room was so dark, but my radio set was on before, and the music that was playing stopped playing, but the radio was still on. So the light was still flashing very little from the radio. Because I was so sick, unable to get off the bed and turn on the light, I couldn't. Then I pick up my Bible with the light flashing out from the radio. I opened the Bible. The word I was read tonight from the book of Isaiah, "Fear thou not, for I am with you." That word was just flashing out from the Bible, like I knew at that moment that it was God speaking to me. Immediately the fever left. The fear left. I was overwhelmed by his presence at that moment. And it was so immediate what happened, what took place. The healing was completely, and I was healed immediately, and I went back to sleep. The next morning, I woke up like nothing happened. I woke up like a new man. I knew that it was God that healed me, and I was so happy. I never forgot this healing. And the reading tonight was just a reminder of that, and I'm so grateful that I'm here tonight. I'm so grateful that we have this place where we can come and feel God's presence. And yes, I still sleep with my Bible next to me.
Thank you. Karen from Kansas, go ahead.
Yes, last week I had a fall and I fell on my tailbone. And having had a similar fall in times past, I knew this could be painful. Anyway, I called a Christian Science practitioner from the Plainfield Church, and she told me to look up what Mrs. Eddy says about accidents. And I used the concordance. On page 397, she says, when an accident happens, you think or exclaim, I am hurt. Your thought is more powerful than your words, more powerful than the accident itself, to make the injury real. Now reverse this process. Declare that you are not hurt, and understand the reason why, and you will find the ensuing good effects to be in exact proportion to your disbelief in physics and your fidelity to divine metaphysics, confidence in God as all, which the Scripture declare him to be. The upshot was that I felt no pain whatsoever. Good evening.
Thank you. Craig.
This is a wonderful place, and thank you for those readings, to trust God and to stand and expect good and to keep walking with Him and expect to do good. This is a great place to bring people. And my wife is not a Christian Scientist, but she's Christian and she dabbles in reading the Bible and other things. Well, she was upset. And you can't preach to people to say, well, you got to get here, or they have to come when they're really willing to come and get something out of it. So on Sunday she came because she was worried. She's been so tense and worried about her, a few things, her mother and our home and various things and people's requests of her. And she's in a tizzy, so she wasn't thinking very clearly at times. When she came here and heard and felt the love of God, things really did change. After he left, she was still wrestling a bit with some of the issues, but her tizziness came to the surface with her having a back problem. She had a pain in the back the next day. And at first I didn't realize it, but it was just all this. I believe the service it just brought it out to the surface to be healed. Well, she couldn't worry because she was so clear to her that worrying was going to make it worse. So she started to think about God and about what people had said. Well, when you have a problem with this, you just got to ask God what to do and trust Him. And I'm sure she did. And I loved her, and I knew that she got it only good for her, and that that's all that she deserved. And every day she's been so appreciative. I didn't say anything to her particularly, directly, but she's been so thank you, and her pain is going right away. And it's beautiful. It wasn't until it came to the surface that this worry is not a good thing, that she had to face it and turn fully to God to get rid of it. I'm sure she took, a few over-the-counter stuff too, but it would not have done it without the much love and the being open to the truth from the love in this church. But and she definitely wouldn't have had that bright smile on her face that she has now. I thank you for this church, and we should all bring a friend in need.
Thank you. LuAnn from New York, go ahead.
Thank you. The more I stay involved with everything that Christian Science has to teach me, the more I learn about the love, patience, and wisdom that God has for His children. Every week the Bible lessons shed new light, and I am blessed with more insight into the value and practical use of what God shares with His children every moment of the day. My practitioner continues to keep my focus on God, turning to Him for my every need, to the point that it has become very natural for me to turn to Him. I have been so to receive the healings that came through my practitioner's work that has freed me to strive for a better understanding of God and to see the good everywhere. Recently, I had a challenge to meet that involved a broken heater in my home. I turned to God for the answer, and He led me to a store that was found by searching online for local repair shops. At first, I was unsure that this was the right answer. It seemed to me that all that they sold were new heaters, and I thought this could not be right. So I tried a couple of other things and did not work out. I was getting somewhat discouraged. Then during one of our watches, I received some loving support from a member of this church, which gave me the courage to press on with God. The blessing she gave by knowing that I could meet this challenge was enough to help me to rethink where I was placing God in all of this and to keep me in the fight of weeding out the error in my thoughts. The next day, God led me back to the same store 2 more times. I finally discovered the mistake in second-guessing what God was showing me and immediately called the store. Indeed, they did have all the parts I needed for the repair, even though their website did not indicate this. I got the parts and with His grace repaired the heater, saving the cost of purchasing a new one. This is a great lesson to learn. If I am to turn to God in times of trouble, then I must discern and trust the answer that comes, even if it does not seem all that clear at first glance. I am so grateful for His patience. The Father is always there waiting for us to learn and to trust Him. I am very grateful for all the love and support that I get from my practitioner and all the members of this church. Whether I'm working through a problem or need to have a Bible study or lesson explained, there is always someone listening to God and demonstrating His love and wisdom. I am so grateful for all of these lessons that have brought an enormous amount of harmony into my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Tonight I want to express my deep gratitude to God and for practitioner support here at Plainfield. An electric wire went down in our woods one night behind our house, causing an electrical surge to go through our house and that of our neighbors. After calling for emergency support, I grabbed my hymnal and left the house as directed by the phone call. While outside, I called the Plainfield practitioner. Her quiet, calm, tender care and immediate support were very powerful. As we talked, a fire started in the backwoods. She confidently told me that love, God, would extinguish it. I got off the phone and was directed to move away from the house. The fire was put out very quickly. During the couple hours that were necessary to be outside while we waited for the work to be done, God's care was shown by many kind firefighters and 3 supportive neighbors who were not there to gawk, but to actually open their homes to us if needed. 2 times I opened to the hymnal for a quiet thought to hold to. My eyes fell upon these 2 verses. One was from page 227, and every place is hallowed ground. And then another one on page 174. Like a mother, God comforteth his children. Comfort is calm that bids all tumult cease. Comfort is hope and courage for endeavor. Comfort is love, whose home abides in peace. It was also a blessing that the rain didn't start coming until we were able to go back in the house. Sorry, I lost my place. But it had been raining, and it stopped while we were outside, and it didn't start up until we were allowed to go in again, and I was very grateful for that. No damage was done to any wires or electrical equipment within or outside the house, and it was easily repaired the next day, and we had our electric back by dinner, and it was very seamlessly done. I really want to thank Plainfield for their faithful fulfilling of their mission that blesses so many lives, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. And thank you for the service this evening. Good night.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Hello. I have a testimony, but I have to add on to what Benjamin said. We've had a very unhappy thing happen with children at our middle schools here in my area, and it is they were arrested also. And I came through my prayer cards, and this is what I fell upon, Isaiah 41. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed. And then I felt peace. Our children are protected by God. And my testimony for tonight is this. I would like to express my gratitude for a healing that took place last week. I had physical discomfort, but what really upset me was the fear that was welling up. I called a practitioner from Plainfield right away and asked for prayerful help. The fear left first, and then the discomfort. It was such a thorough and complete treatment that I forgot all about this incident until last night when I was going over my gratitude list for our service tonight. The way our practitioners stay focused on God's truth about us and the world is a wonderful thing, and I am very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Florence or Day-Day?
Day-Day? Florence from Georgia.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Day-Day. Thank you. This morning I read the excerpt from Confidence found on the Plainfield website carousel. It says, fear is faith in evil. Courage is faith in God. Doubt is trust in evil. Confidence, rightly directed, is trust in God good. Through what I'm learning in this church, I've realized that I can't trust God while being fearful of anything. If I'm fearful about the outcome of a job interview, then I'm not trusting that God has already established my right place. If I'm fearful about going somewhere that God is leading me to, then I'm not fully trusting in His direction and protection. Or if I'm fearful about any events of the day, then I'm not trusting in God's perfect unfoldment of each day. I'm so grateful to have become aware of this and to have a better understanding of the importance of acknowledging God's constant care for me and for everyone, and demonstrating my love for Him by trusting Him more. I'm thankful for the opportunity to continue to learn in this church, and thank you so much for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Betty from California, go ahead.
I wish to express gratitude for Christian Science and for the Plainfield practitioner help received. Since childhood, I've been prone to having nosebleeds. I've had practitioner help from Plainfield Church has been given to me at different times on this. One statement from Science and Health by Mary Baker Eddy that was given to me proved very helpful. It is, quote, Christian scientists must live under the constant pressure of the apostolic command to come out from the material world and be separate, unquote. Learning to use this statement often stopped the problem very quickly. Then last February, when I received practitioner help from the Plainfield Church for a cold, the help was so thoroughly and lovingly given that not only was the cold, a nose problem, healed, but also the nosebleeds that I'd had were healed as well. I'm so very grateful for the Plainfield Church, practitioner help, and for Christian Science. Thank you.
Thank you. Lilian, go ahead.
I recently learned a great lesson not to be pushed by error and to trust God when something seems wrong. I recently received a piece of mail from EasyPass, but was thinking, it's an ad, I'm not going to open it right away, I have other things to do. And when I did open it up, it turned out to be a violation with a fee, a fine on that violation. And I just kept thinking, the picture on the form didn't even look like my car. I don't have EasyPass, and I don't really know where this place is that it says the violation was done. So I tried to reach them on the phone, and they kept turning me from one line to the other, from this, that. And one finally said, well, you'll have to, and it was just a recording, that you have to call first thing in the morning, which I did. But before I did that, I contacted practitioner and asked for help, and was told, don't get foofed up by this error, and if the truth will come out. If it's not right, the truth will come out. It will be revealed. So then I went and called first thing in the morning to EasyPass, and I got a customer service person, and I explained my dispute that I talked to a practitioner about, and he then looked at the violation because he could get a clearer picture of what was there, and he said, yes, that car doesn't sound like yours, because I explained what mine looked like. And then he said, oh, there is a typo in the license plate number. Well, you can't imagine how happy I was to hear that it was the mistake, and God did reveal it. And I just can't be grateful enough for that. That when you're really trusting God, the truth will reveal what you need to know. And I'm just so grateful for God's great love and for the help of the practitioner. And thank you for the wonderful readings tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Bruce. Earlier, Day mentioned this article that's on our website called Confidence. It's from Martha Bogue. And I was so glad to hear what she said about it. I got to admit, I read that article too this week and was helped immensely by it. And the thing that got me most, though, was the writer of this article described her experience where she was called by someone who needed some help to go to their place and help them. And she described how on the trip there, she read Science and Health, and guess what? Personal sense was arguing all the way and saying, somebody else should have gone, not her. Until she got to the realization that the call for help was not for her personally, but was for Christian Science. And with that, it took a whole thing out of the personal realm, and things worked out well. This lady had a healing. A wonderful thing was in there. And the reason this helped me so much is because at times I've been asked to do things, and without exception, it always causes problems if I think they've called on me, my personal talents or abilities or whatever. That never works out well. But when I get myself humbled to the realization that the call out is for my confidence in God, that He can use me to do His will, the call for help is for the right idea, not anything associated with person. When I get it in that realm, things always work out well. So confident in my own abilities is arrogance, but confident in the ability that I can listen to God and obey Him to do His will is meekness. And that's what helped me so much with this article. So I'm very grateful to have read it and to have learned this lesson. It's something I have to watch all the time, of course. So it's an ongoing process, but hey, that's what it's all about, right? It's not a one-time shot. So thank you, God. I'm ready to proceed some more. Dale from Virginia, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those beautiful readings tonight. The first hymn that we sang tonight has been a blessing to me. A practitioner in this church gave it to me to really live with recently. It says, "Everlasting arms of love are beneath, around, above. God it is who bears us on, is the arm we lean upon." And I had some really good support from God and from this wonderful practitioner. And I sent the practitioner a note on the weekend, and I was looking it over, and I thought, boy, this is really something I should share, so I'm going to share it. I said, "Thank you so much for your continuing support. Yesterday, I had an appetite for the first time in over a week. My back was normal, while the day before I still had a little trouble walking. I can turn over in my bed with ease for the first time in a week. The pain in all parts of my body has virtually stopped. I am very grateful, of course, to be free of these things, but even more grateful that my husband can see the results of this work in Christian Science. I am also more grateful to be gaining more understanding of my relationship to God and to be in my right place, doing my right work. It's quite something to just stand your ground and see things happen as they should, letting God be all. I am ever so grateful for everything going on in this church and all the love and truth that is shared. Thank you."
Thank you. Mary?
I have some letters to read. The first from Florida. To our dear Plainfield friends, the time spent with you all at the last 3 Sunday services we attended was precious and healing. I will treasure these sweet memories until we are able to visit again. Thank you. Sent with love. And this from Missouri. I had recently discovered Plainfield online. Since then, I have come to Plainfield several times every day. I don't know that I can articulate quite yet what has been shifting in my conscious thought since then, but there has been a change, often extremely uncomfortable, yet necessary. While I grew up attending a Christian Science church and attended Principia School, I was not living a life that would allow me to call myself a Christian Scientist. I didn't know what Christian Science really was, or who Mrs. Eddy is. But rather than lament over what would humanly seem wasted time, I am overwhelmingly thankful I found Plainfield and for the work of the past and present Plainfield community, and for the opportunity to learn the correct teachings of Mrs. Eddy. I am understanding the underlying purpose of any seeming personal progress isn't to benefit me or make my life or those in my circle more pleasant, but instead to serve our Father, with much necessary help from Mrs. Eddy's instructions left for earnest seekers. I must give you and the other Plainfield dear ones tremendous credit and gratitude for constant, faithful, daily work that is establishing a state of consciousness that is calling to others and helps others become receptive to the initial faint glimmer of the Christ consciousness so that it may be developed and established. I think this must be similar to what occurred during Mrs. Eddy's time here and how her thought was required to help others hear the call from the Father. I'm so grateful for all that you're doing. Very truly yours. And this, Australia, a testimony of healing. I would like to give my gratitude to God for being the ever-watchful shepherd and loving father-mother who over the years has led me out of some very dark places. Being raised in an emotionally difficult family environment, but blessed with great material prosperity, I was very much a child of the world and materiality, but deeply unhappy. For years I searched to find love through personal sense, and seemed to for a time, only to find it built on the shifting sands. I was searching for spiritual peace and explored many spiritual philosophies to try to find deep inner peace. My turning point came in my youth when, as a young chiropractor on a professional educational trip with my colleagues in Sri Lanka, I became very ill and started to pass on. I remember being lifted above, outside the body, so to speak. At first I felt this overwhelming fear with the thought, I am dying, and then almost instantly followed the thought, no, I am not ready to die. As I was moving out of the body, I remembered something I must have read earlier from my previous spiritual searchings, the thought that if the yoga masters can defy matter, then so can I. I knew I had to make a mental stand. I couldn't rely on the Sri Lankan hospital system to save me. I was absolutely aware that my body was sensationless, and I can remember realizing that all the medical theories I had been learning about body and matter and neuroanatomy and physiology, etc., were false. I had no body or sense of body, but I was there. I called out to God. Then I found myself completely at one with His presence. My will was His will, absolutely one, just one mind and presence. I had never experienced anything like this before, and it is almost impossible to convey with words. It was a sense of power, an absolute and complete presence. No matter, no mortal mind, only the all-knowing mind, and that was me. I realized that the personality that I had been calling me was not me and never had been. I could see the room, the people, and all within in the room, and realized it was all me. I had an expanded sense of self. Everything I was aware of was embodied within my consciousness, and it was me. There was a certain partitioning around me. I was enclosed in a partitioned cubicle, but I could see everything outside the cubicle. I was above it all. I was perceiving with the all-knowing mind, and it was my only mind at that moment. Then I recall being aware of my body and seeing a blood pressure cuff around my right arm and my chiropractic teacher sitting beside me monitoring me. As I became conscious of my body again, I knew I had experienced a great awakening. There were challenges to follow. I was taken back to my hotel. Then certain bodily functions seemed to break down. A medical practitioner was called who wanted to put me into a hospital immediately and onto a drip, but I was reluctant to go. The Sri Lankan hospitals in 1984-85 were nothing like our Western hospital system then. Poor hygiene and primitive buildings gave me little faith in their medical system. The doctor agreed to leave me in the hotel for the time being, but would check on me when he would return in about 6 to 8 hours. During that time, I seemed to deteriorate further, but in my semi-conscious state, I held to one thought: I am alive. I kept repeating this to myself mentally until I reached the hospital. Because of my earlier experience, I was able to mentally hold on to that thought and nothing else. I seemed to know that the presence was life itself and would not allow any other thought to enter my consciousness. If it was as if I knew I couldn't die. There were times when I became aware of colleagues taking my pulse, making comments about my condition, etc., and being told just to go to sleep. But I would not let go of the thought, I am alive. And I knew I had to stay conscious of that fact. Eventually, I was taken to a European-style hospital in Colombo and placed on a drip. I have no recollection after that until I awoke sometime later, and after a week or so, I was able to return home. When I finally returned home to Australia, and after some prolonged recovery, I found myself compelled to understand this experience. I had experienced a taste of immortality. I searched many religions and started to explore some New Age metaphysics, but it was not until 7 years later that I finally found Christian Science. I was given a Christian Science journal by a friend who wasn't a scientist, and when I read these words, quote, "Man is God's immortal idea," end quote, I knew I had found my answer. That was what I had experienced. I attended a local Christian Science church and was given Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by a practitioner there. I had been so thirsty for this truth and was so thankful to have finally found this book. I devoured it day and night. I knew this was the science of life. I identified so much with what was written here by Mary Baker Eddy and wanted to advance in my spiritual understanding of this science. And so I began my journey into the greatest love affair of my life, the journey into Christian Science. In the words of Mary Baker Eddy, quote, "To live so as to keep human consciousness in constant relation to the spiritual, the eternal, and the divine is to individualize infinite power, and this is Christian Science," end quote. What a blessing. Tonight I would like to say, first, how grateful I am for the readings, our testimonies, our service tonight. The book or the article mentioned on our carousel about confidence was sent to us by our dear Jacob in Costa Rica, and how grateful I am for all of those of you who send in articles, write articles, contribute to this church in so many different ways. In the responsive reading is the statement from Proverbs, "Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established." That word established means to settle or fix what is wavering, doubtful, or weak, to settle permanently. So, if any of you are having thoughts that are wavering, doubtful, or weak, and I know I certainly did at one time, the answer to get yourself established is to commit your works unto God. And what does that mean? It means that whatever you do, whether it's making a bed or a business transaction, whatever it is, to commit it to God, to do it for His glory, to have an unselfish, unselfed purpose in it, to seek and ask His guidance, to commit your work to the Lord. And as you do that, you will find your thoughts will be established. God will give you the thoughts that you need to accomplish His purpose. And you will find yourself settled permanently, and all those fears and worries will be gone. There's a beautiful song written by our dear Peter. It's on our CD, the CD that he and Faith did, called Face the Light. And one of the songs, he wrote all of the songs on that CD, but one of them was called When I Found God. And it is so beautiful, but one of the main verses is, and the most amazing thing happened. I forgot myself in Him. And one day while I was walking, I found who I was supposed to be. I realized suddenly, when I found God, I found me. That's the truth. As we forget ourselves in God, when we commit our lives, our works to Him, we will find Him. It's the only way to do it. So very grateful to be here, to be learning what true and real Christian Science is and how to apply it in my life and to help others to find that way as well.
Thank you.